everyone, Susan here. I started something brand new, and that's a vlog that's taking me from the beginning stages of a French lace gown all the way to the finished product. And I'm going to show you every part of that process as I'm thinking it out, as I'm mapping it out, and as I'm doing it, so that you will not miss any of it. So that's what we're going to be doing next. I am still working on the Patreon account. I'm developing it. I'm getting the videos ready so I can upload it to the Patreon account. As soon as that's done, I will have the link in the description box below. And if you haven't seen vlog number 1, check that out in the description box below and get that link first so that you can follow it from the very beginning. And let's get started. So let's talk about the understructure. What is the understructure? That is very essential in a couture piece or high-level design piece. That actually is the construction underneath the gown that maintains and holds up and boosts the actual design. Especially if you have something that is strapless, you need something to actually hold up the structure underneath, plus linings and zippers and all those other little things that go inside the garment. This is the rough sketch of the couture piece that I'm going to be doing with the French lace that we have right over here. Okay, so I had to get some linings for this, and I had to get some structure pieces, and that's one of the things is called boning. This is boning, okay? It's not bones, guys. It's a plastic device that goes into a casing like this. You can either use it with the casing or without the casing, and that goes inside the seams underneath the understructure to hold up the gown so that you can have it where it's strapless. I also have two different linings. I bought a very traditional Bemberg 100% rayon lining that is a good sturdy lining that can line this entire gown. And I also bought something which I thought was kind of interesting, and it has a little bit of a stretch on it. And I thought that would be a good idea to have because lace gives. Lace has some movement to it, and it would be kind of nice to have the understructure have a little give to work with the actual garment itself. Okay, so this is the design, right? I talked about it in the first video, how this part over here, which is this part here, has gathering in the lace to go over this cup. And this is like a little triangle. Underneath that, there has to be something. So what I'm going to be doing is draping the underneath part of that ruching for this area, and also much boning as we can get away with, meaning here and possibly here, will help support this dress as much as possible. So we more than just a traditional center front and princess seam and side seam. The boning, I'm going to add this seam here from this structure to put boning, and then in between this section I'm going to put another line for boning so that I can have another piece of boning here as well as here. And I'm going to do the same thing in the back. I'm making another line plus the princess seam, and then we have the center back. That should be good. Okay, there's some prep work that I have to do for the muslins, and I'm preparing a whole bunch of little squares of muslin for every little section, you know, for the center section, for this princess section. And I have a whole bunch of them, you know, prepared already. And then each one of these sections has to have a muslin piece, so it's going to be a lot of draping. I wanted to kind of show you that process, so I'm just measuring each section and just going a little bit beyond the section. So if this section is, let's say, 2.5 inches, you have to make it more, so you would want to tear a piece about 5 inches wide by about 7 inches long. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just tearing the muslin. And I'm measuring over the 5 inches for the width here, like that. And then I'm just clipping it and tearing it down. And then we said by 7 inches. And then I'm going to snip in this direction and then tear the muslin. And when I get these pieces, I want to block them. And blocking, remember, we want to just pull on the diagonal to make sure that all the corners and everything is on a right angle. And then we're going to press it flat to prepare them for the draping process. Okay. I folded under 1/2 of an inch and I'm working on the center front with this triangle. I'm pinning it right on the center front markings, and I can see the black tape underneath. I'm just going to put some quick pins here and here, and I'm going to just dot that style line all the way down in the black tape. Cross mark at the intersection, dot, 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 and then a line. So that's the first piece. Take that off. The second piece, and I'm going to do this section here. So I pull the lengthwise grain so that I know that I have that in the right spot. Put a quick line, putting the lengthwise grain in between the section right here, and pinning along the lengthwise grain like that, and then just molding it over the piece. Molding it over the piece like that. We're going to go over here to the princess seam from here and above. Okay, we have the apex, very important. I have a pin right here where the apex is. That goes first. And I'm just going to dot, dot, dot on the princess seam, the cross mark, dot, 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 intersection, and then just continue to dot it all the way up here. Intersection here as well, dot, 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 to the princess seam and the top of that bodice. Feel the groove where the princess seam is and just dot along that line, keeping it taut. And that will be 2. 1 just so I can keep track of it, and this will be 2 so I can keep track of it. I'm going to take that guy off, and we're going to do this piece right here. I'm going to draw a line on the piece like this, and I'm going to put that lengthwise grain in between the side seam and the princess bust, and I'm just going to keep it straight like that, and we're going to mold it over the bust as well. I'm going to clip this a little bit underneath. Take some of this out. Take some of this out. The apex as well, like that. Make sure these pins are, you want it to be very, very smooth. This has to support what's going on on top of it. And then we're going to start marking again, apex, the center point of the bust, right there. Dot, 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 all the way up the princess line, cross mark at the intersection of the top part and the princess, dot, 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 all the way around the top style line. Put a mark on the outside of the side seam, markings on the outside of the side seam, cross mark at underneath, dot, 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 mark here underneath, and a cross mark there, and then dot all the way up the princess seam. And that's 3. I'm going to true the 3 pieces here that we started with, and I'm going to actually true the lines and pin them together so that I have a gauge. This is the first piece here, which was a triangle. I'm going to go ahead and put that triangle, that line. Truing the lines is taking all of the markings and the majority of the markings and using a straight ruler or a curved ruler in order to correct those lines. So we're just going to go ahead, and that's the triangle that goes there. This is the triangle that meets that triangle that goes there. This is a curved line, so I'm going to go ahead and do it here like that. And this is more of a straight line than it is curved, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the 3 the 3 markings and take the closest to that shape with the ruler, doing the underneath part from cross mark to cross mark like that. And on this piece, the bust, we need to do the curve from cross mark to cross mark. And then from the top, cross mark to cross mark, cross mark to cross mark, and cross mark to cross mark. Now I'm going to put seam allowance 1/2 inch. Now we're going to pin them together. So this is 2, center front. So we're going to pin these guys together like that. And I'm going to go ahead and pin, which is stabbing all layers and then going up like that. Stabbing all layers and going up like that. I usually do these pins about 1/2 inch apart. Piece is going to be to this piece. Okay, here we go. Put the 2 cross marks together. Pin it like that. I'm putting these pins about 1/2 inch apart. This piece here, that's going to go back on the mannequin. Under bodice so far here, so you can see how it's molding nicely over the bust. When you pin it or sew it, it will constrict, so it then becomes a little shy here. And this is why I have extra, because I'm going to need to have ease in order for the body measurements here as well. So now I'm going to be draping these 2 pieces in the back. I've already prepared this piece, which is the center back. And I'm just going to pin that along the center back line, like that. And here. Then I'm just going to mold the piece over to where the princess seam is. I'm going to use the princess seam because I want to put boning down here on that part, and then boning will be down this angle as well. So I'm just going to taunt so that I can then make cross marks and markings. I have a cross mark here, dot, 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 all the way the princess seam. I have a groove where the princess seam is, so I'm just going to feel that groove and dot, 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 all the way till I get the intersection here, underneath, and then dot, 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 dot. Okay, and that would be, if this is 3, this would be 4, this would be 5. Take that guy off. And then this piece, I've already blocked it and prepared it with a straight grain going in the middle. So I'm taking this straight grain, I'm putting it in the middle of this section from the side seam to the princess seam, like that. Pinning that down, smoothing it over to the princess seam on this side, and on this side, smoothing it over to the side seam on this side, as you can see. Just gonna clip it a little bit underneath. It's pulling too tight, so we don't want it to ever pull. We want to have a nice smooth look. So I'm just gonna cut that off like that. The intersection of the side seam, like that. Dot, 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 all the way down. Intersection there on the side seam, as you can see, and then I'm going to dot all the way over here to the princess seam. The princess seam intersection is right here. I feel the groove underneath, like that, so I'm going to go ahead and dot, dot, dot. Here is the princess intersection, and then dot all the way along the top part of the back bodice, like that. Now this would be 4. I'm going to put 4 and 5 together on the flat, and then we'll continue draping. 4 and 5 here that I have to true, and this is the center back. Cut that out. And these guys together, center back, and then that's got to be pinned to this guy. Here's 4 going into 5, like that. Go ahead and pinning that as well. Is pinned on now, the front and back. So now we have to drape all of these sections here for the boning. That's the understructure as well. That's next for it, all the way down. And then I'm just going to drape it over that piece like that. We're just going to, it's just a small piece that's starting from here down. Since I have so much, I'm going to take a little bit of this out. I'm going to clip. And then just mold it over where I'm going to be draping, up above here, as well as on this side. Because I just drew the line in and not had a black tape, it's going to be hard for me to see, but I'm going to peek and look underneath here, and then just dot, 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 dot underneath there. This is going to be where the waistline is. I'm going to dot underneath the waistline tape. And then the intersection is right here, and I'm just going to dot all the way up there, all the way up the intersection like this. When I have a panel like this that it doesn't have the black tape, what I like to do is actually true this piece so that the other piece can go exactly where it needs to be over it. So I'm just going to put the dots where that should be, and then I'm going to take it off and I'm going to true it on the flat and put it back on before I do the second piece. True this and get this on the mannequin again. I'm going from cross mark to cross mark and drawing a straight line, and then I'm going cross mark to cross mark here and drawing a line, as well as down here. Okay, I'm going to put 1/2 inch seam allowance. It's just safer that way with all of what I need. To get the boning in there, I also need the 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to put that there. Okay, trim this guy out. Okay, this way when I'm draping the second piece, I'll just be able to go on the exact line that I need without any guessing. Okay, this piece back on the dress form, I'm going to fold under the top part of this, and I'm going to put it here to the center front, and we have that secured all the way to the center front, all the way to the waistline. And so this piece fits right here where that triangle piece is. I'm going to go ahead and put the pin this way. Okay, sometimes you can do that. I allow it. But now that I have this piece here, it's going to make it easier to drape the other parts, because then I have the line to follow and I can feel it, you know, as well. I can put pins there so that it makes it easier as well. So I'm going to do it like that. And why am I bothering to do all of these little pieces? I mean, okay, I can do it simply by probably put it on the flat and on, you know, pattern making paper, you know, drape one piece and then just chop it up in pieces. But that's not the way couture works. That's not the way actual couture works. You're always working on a body, okay? You get a different pattern. I don't care what anybody says. You get a different pattern when you drape something on a body, whether it's a mannequin or a human body, because it molds to the body rather than calculating it and numbers with flat pattern or drafting. So that's just the reality of it. So it's more painstaking. It takes a lot more time. Obviously, it's a lot. But I'm going to do each one of these little panels, and we're going to do them together. And this is what this design has. So when people think, you know, like, oh gosh, this stuff is, you know, it's too expensive, and why is couture so expensive? This is why couture is so expensive, guys, because if you sit here and have to drape all these little sections by hand, and you're putting them together and you're truing them all together, there's a lot of time involved. Tons and tons of time that's involved. So that's what it's all about. And I wanted to show you the process and explain the process to you, and even answer some of your questions about the process. So, you know, give me those questions in the description box and let me know what you're thinking, okay? All right, we're going to do this part next on 3.